Okay, got it. So tonight's topic is more broad than specific. Tonight's topic is the belief in God logical? Have no mistake, tonight's topic is not about something specific like Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism. That's not what we're speaking about. So any mention of Old Testament ethics or biblical inerrancy or how historical the Bible is not relevant to tonight. We are just simply talking about, is the belief in an intelligent creator, someone who made the universe logical? What were the origins of our universe? Has it been eternal? Did it start? That is what we're speaking of tonight, not something more specific like the Bible. With that, I am the affirmative. I'm going first. I'm setting the foundation for tonight in a way. Not fully, but whatever I say on this podium is kind of going to be very important. And with this, I would like to give two contentions to be the foundation for tonight's debate. These same two contentions were given by William Lane Craig, but I have a little spin on both of them. The first contention is that there are no good arguments for atheism. Some of you might find this one bizarre, though. Well, there doesn't need to be arguments for atheism. Atheism is a lack of belief. It doesn't need evidence in any way, right? I would say wrong. Absence of evidence isn't evidence. We've all heard this. There's no evidence for aliens, for example. That doesn't necessarily mean they aren't out there, but there is no evidence. You can walk into your house and there's no evidence there's a fire. There's no smoke or anything, but you turn around and in your kitchen, one of your children left the stove on or something like that. Just because there's no evidence for a claim doesn't mean it's for certain that the claim is false. It just means we don't know. So if there is no evidence for God, we are not left with atheism. No, we are left with agnosticism at best. So I believe it is Thomas's job for tonight to give his evidence on his own for atheism. Now, of course, I do believe theism, Christianity, what I'm holding to tonight, does have its own burden of proof, which is exactly what my second contention for tonight is. My second contention is that there are good arguments for the existence of God. What do I mean by this? Well, I think if we observe the attributes of our universe, we should automatically assume a designer. Why? Because we do this with many things. Imagine you were walking in the sand, and you came across a stopwatch. You'd pick it up and you'd say, okay, well, a human made this. You don't immediately assume a human made it just because you've seen a stopwatch before. No, if a native picked this stopwatch up, they would immediately know a human made it. Doesn't matter who picks it up. Same thing with the painting. Some things we immediately assume that they are designed, right? That's kind of automatic in a way. So why don't we do this with the universe? Well, I think we should for two reasons. The first one is the rarity of our universe. Our universe is made up of constants. These constants are specific mathematic equations, limits, and numbers. An example of a constant is the strength of gravity. If I were to tell you that I was going to drop this water bottle, before I even thought of letting go, we could know the exact speed and where the water bottle would fall and hit the floor. How do we know this? Well, not just the strength of gravity, of course, it's how fast I let go and many other things like the distance between the floor and my hand, but mainly we already know how fast gravity will pull the water bottle because it's a specific number. So what is the rarity of these constants? Again, I just gave an example, the gravitational constant. There's the speed of light constant, right? How fast light hits Earth, the fastest speed known to man, right? What is the value of these speeds? Why am I even mentioning them? Well, it's because of how dependent we are on them. If this gravitational constant wasn't its exact precision, we basically wouldn't be able to form stars, and the solar system would not produce the majority of its life essential elements, like carbon, hydrogen, or oxygen. So if this gravitational constant wasn't so specific, which it is, I'll get into the numbers in a bit, we would have no life. So what is the exact limit? What's the exact number for this gravitational constant? Well, let me put it in a hypothetical. Imagine for a second, on the middle of this stage, there was a pen, there was a notepad, and there was a dice. Imagine this dice had 100 quintillion sides on it. I didn't know that number existed before this event. Really, a lot of people don't. It's so massive. A lot of people don't know this number, right? This number has 20 zeros in it. This number is enormous. So you pick up this dice with 100 quintillion sides on it, which I don't even think is possible. And then, before you even roll the dice, you write down on a notepad the number 43. If you were to roll this dice, and it were to land on 43, your odds of that are 1 in 100 quintillion. If this personally happened to me, I would think three things. I would think either A, I'm insane, either B, I am dreaming, or C, it's fake, I'm on a TV show. I would immediately assume that this didn't happen because it's so implausibly rare. Statistically, it is basically impossible. This is only one of the constants of our universe. There's several more. There's the electromagnetic force. There's the size of a proton. The probability that these numbers would be exactly the way they are so life could produce, so we could have planets, is essentially impossible. If you don't believe me, you should listen to Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking, an atheist, people know him for that, says the remarkable fact is that the values of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible development of life. David Deutsch says if anyone claims not to be surprised by the fact that the universe is hospitable to life, they are either lying or they have their head in the sand. So you don't even have to believe me on this one, nor do you have to know the very specific numbers I have to give. All you need to know is that the fact of our universe being the way it is, the fact that human life could exist, is so rare it could not happen by chance. It could not happen by natural causes. It is most probable that the intelligent designer went out of their way to make our universe this way. It is most probable that an intelligent designer made us with morals where we could have obligations and objections to horrible claims. Like we can say the Holocaust was wrong. We can say this objectively if our universe is designed. My next argument I'd like to give, which is another observation of the universe, is called the Kalam cosmological argument. Basically, the Kalam cosmological argument is quite simple. In fact, some of you guys have probably made it. Not intentionally, though. The very specifics of the argument are two premises and a conclusion. The first premise is that everything with a beginning has a cause. This is the part where we have to go over the principle of causality. Does everything with a beginning have a cause? I think by nature we already assume this. Imagine if I were to tell you that there was a loud bang outside of this room. A boom! We would all get out of our seats, if this was in real life, of course. I'm sure we wouldn't care because it's rec room. We would get out of our seats and we investigate it, just like that man with the orange hat is, right? We would all look. We would find the cause of the bang because it had a start. It's a boom. We always investigate the cause of actions. So everything with a beginning has a cause. If a boulder rolls down a hill and splits a tree, that action was caused, right? If a vase falls off of a shelf and shatters on the floor, maybe a little child pushed this vase off the shelf, or maybe an earthquake happened, right? In short, every action, yes, with a beginning, beginning. Remember I said that word, beginning. Every action with a beginning does in fact have a cause. The second premise is that the universe has a beginning. Well, other than the fact that this is basically a modern scientific fact in the Big Bang, I don't think it's even philosophically possible for an eternal universe to exist. In fact, I don't even know if it's possible for an eternal or infinite amount of anything to exist in a material world that atheism claims. In the words of George Cantor, the infinite is not a concept that can truly even be grasped. It is more of a mathematical abstraction or illusion, and when we try to apply it to the real world, we encounter paradoxes that suggest that the infinite is more illusory than real. Well, what are these paradoxes that, George Cantor is talking about? What is he even talking about? Well, how about I give you an example? Well, imagine that you had a ball pit with infinite amount of balls. And then imagine you minus infinite amount of balls from that ball pit. What's the answer? No matter how you answer, you're incorrect. William Lane Craig makes this point in his debate with Christopher Hitchens. It's a great one. What's infinity divided by infinity? What's infinity times infinity? What's infinity plus infinity? What's infinity minus infinity? What's infinity to the square root of 3? Infinity, we have no grasp of. We don't know how it works or what its actual limitations are. We don't know if it can be added to or subtracted to. So we definitely don't know if our universe is infinite, if it even possibly can be. I also have an acronym for why our universe can't be eternal. It's called CAM, Creation, Aging, Meaning. The C stands for creation, of course, and what do I mean by this? Well, what I mean by creation is that our universe scientifically had a creation, the Big Bang Theory, like I spoke of earlier. We can trace the background radiation found in our solar system and trace it back to one individual point. This was the hot, dense point from when the Big Bang started. By the way, just if anyone's curious, no, the Big Bang does not contradict Christianity, nor does evolution, but that's a topic for a different time. So that's creation. And then there's aging. Well, if something's eternal, it doesn't have an end. It can't age. So if we can observe our universe aging, it is not eternal, which we can. We see that our galaxies are slowly getting further apart. If these scientific theories, which were verified by in 1929 by Edwin Hubble, are true, either A, our universe is going to end in a big freeze where everything expands so far that it just collapses, or B, our universe is going to get so far in expansion, it's going to retract back like a rubber band, and then it's going to collapse in itself. Either way, our universe is 100% aging, and anyone who claims it's not is simply denying the facts. Finally, meaning. Creation, aging, and meaning. Meaning isn't as much about the universe's eternalness, it's more about the universe if atheism's true in general. You see, the atheist has to claim that our universe came by natural causes. But does our universe even have meaning if the universe came by natural causes? Well, imagine a world with no people on it, nothing to observe. And then imagine the waves of the tide crashed against the beach and were able to form magically a sand castle. This sand castle, with no person making it, no little child adding a little castle at the top and rocks around it, this castle is meaningless if it's simply created by natural causes. The origins of this sand castle automatically make it meaningless. If atheism is true, if we are simply the descendants of bacteria through the process of evolution, if we are a cosmic mistake with no meaning, no objective morality, we don't matter. That's the sad part. So if you're going to get anything out of my opening statement tonight, the rarity of our universe is statistically almost impossible to happen by chance. The creation of the universe can't be eternal, and it's basically impossible unless you believe something can magically appear from nothing. And finally, the meaning of the universe is not very inerrant with atheism. I don't believe the question for tonight's debate is if the belief in God is logical. I think the question for tonight is our universe even possible without God? Thank you.
100%. Alright, Thomas, when you begin, I'll start my timer.
And I'm off. Hello. I wish to begin with the notion that I'm very thankful for this opportunity to speak about something I am so very passionate about. Enough of that. Now to begin. This debate of whether the belief in a God is logical is an insult to the word logic. The definition of belief is literally a firmly held opinion or conviction. The idea of belief is to trust something without proof. You cannot logically believe something without proof. If you do have proof, then it's a fact. But you cannot have belief without proof. There's no logic to God. I will say that at no point during this entire debate will my opponent provide any shred of evidence to prove the existence of God. They'll merely make arguments like ideas, but not enough. But but I will say this: there are still those arguments that can be made in support of God. So now I will look at the main arguments that I've seen throughout my research for why God should exist, and I'll rebuttal them all. I see the cosmological argument: whatever begins must have a cause for its existence. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe must have a cause for its existence. What a lovely statement. Not a cause doesn't always have to. I will agree, everything needs a cause, but a cause isn't always of intelligence. There is true randomness in the universe. Sometimes the cause is just randomness. Schrodinger's cat is a famous example of randomness. If you were to open that box, the result would truly be random. Let's get to the point. I'd argue that while everything needs a cause, the cause doesn't always have to be intelligence. There is randomness in this universe, and sometimes that cause can just be, randomness. Now for the teleological argument. Human-made objects were created with intention, by design, and for a purpose. The universe resembles human-made objects in important ways. Therefore, it is probable that the universe was created with intention, by design, for a purpose. The universe is much more complex than human-made objects. Therefore, it is probable that a powerful being created the universe. Okay, just because they're similar doesn't mean they're exactly the same. I argue that the similarity between the universe and man-made objects ends there. It is absurd to believe that just because two things are a little alike doesn't mean they're exactly alike. As for the idea that due to the utter perfection of the universe, it's logical to assume a creator, I'd argue that if the universe wasn't perfect, thus things could exist. Here, I'm using this thing. Number line 0, 1. Imagine that there's infinite points between the 0 and 1. There are. You can have one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, blah, 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 blah. There are infinite points that you can find between this 0 and this 1. But us humans can only exist if we're at 1. Like, my opponent stated that if you were to take a device or a dice of like 10 quintillion or whatever number it was, and then flip it and then write down 42, and then it landed on exactly 42, it'd be logical to assume that since that's so perfect. That's logical to assume that since the universe is so perfect, there must be a God. And I'd argue that if the universe wasn't perfect, then we could never exist. This debate couldn't even be happening if we weren't at this 1. There are infinity points between this 0 and this 1, but there's only one, and that's where we exist. Look, I'm gonna draw a little less. We could goodbye. We could only exist if the universe is freaking perfect. Okay, moving on. There's the ontological argument. If there's a God, it's perfect being. A perfect being possesses all possible perfections. Existence is a perfection. Therefore, God necessarily possesses the quality of existence. Okay, God doesn't have to be a perfect being. What if our universe was created by there's some higher universe and a guy pressed the button and then our universe was created? I can assure you that guy is not perfect. God doesn't have to be perfect. Existence is a perfection, but that doesn't mean that perfect. That doesn't mean you know what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. Sorry. I do now. That's all the main arguments that I've seen. That's all the main arguments that I've seen. But it is my belief that there is a true reason all you in the audience wish to believe in a God. This debate has been rigged against me from the start. Not by my opponent, not by the moderator, by you and your minds. Like my opponent says, if our universe was created out of nothingness and we're just nature we developed for bacteria, etc., then nothing that happens matters. And while those are some powerful words, it doesn't make them not true. It is a very depressing thought to think that existence is just a fluke, a random thing that happened. But that's the truth. But since none of you want to believe that, there will always be someone out there who wishes to believe that someone created the universe, that someone made it because they love us, that there's a place you go after you die, that all beliefs are stemmed from the idea that I don't want the universe to have been born out of nothing. But simply put, that's the truth. those are all the arguments that I found, plus my personal belief as to why people believe in God. If there are any more, then I am not aware of them. You can point those out during the question section, or Michael will point them out during his rebuttal. But I don't know about them, so I don't have anything to say about them. If there are any, you may be asking yourselves, all right, Thomas, you made some good points, but what about pro-atheism arguments? Need some of those too. Great you are, so here we are. There isn't enough. This is bad. There isn't enough hard evidence for theism. I mentioned this already, but let me explain. There's no hard proof for theism. I'd argue that the absence of proof is evidence for the opposite conclusion. In my opponent's opening statement, he said that just because there's no evidence of something doesn't mean that it's not true. And I'd argue sorry, I hear something in my house. Sorry. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, dang it. There isn't enough hard evidence. My opponent stated, just because there isn't any evidence for something doesn't mean that he can't believe it. That it's wrong. And I'd say, yeah, that's true, but there's still no evidence, and it'd be logical to assume that your house isn't on fire. If you don't see smoke coming out of your house, then there's no evidence that there's a fire, and you could logically assume that your house isn't on fire. It could be, but no proof, so it doesn't have to be right. Another idea: if there truly is a God, where are they? Every major religious text has God interact with the world in some way. If God wishes people to know his existence, why doesn't he just show up? I'd love to believe that there's a place to go. Well, what? That's it. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, I think to start us off with a quote, which, I can tell from my opening statement I love doing. I like the quote, the great war hero Winston Churchill. He says, "Nothing in life is so exhilarating as to be shot at without result." And I think that actually perfectly describes tonight's evening, because I think I'm being shot at without result. Several of Thomas's arguments didn't even relate to anything I said, including his reference to the ontological argument, his reference to individual and specific scriptures, which I said that we wouldn't be mentioning tonight. But to answer it anyway, why doesn't God make himself apparent now? I can't give you a specific answer, because we're not talking about a specific religion tonight. Every religion will have a different claim to why. That's irrelevant. How does that prove that God isn't logical? God could be real. Logically, maybe he just doesn't want to show up. Why doesn't God want to show up? It will be different between every religion. The specifics of Christianity I can supply. I don't believe God shows up currently for us now, because I don't believe he needs to. He already has in the form of a man. He went up on the cross and he died for our sins as Jesus Christ. That is why God doesn't need to be here now. If God showed up every few seconds, we wouldn't have any faith for him. How do you have faith in someone that you just watched be in front of you? If God made himself apparent to every individual person, no room for faith. What he simply does is he gives us clues to his existence, and some will live a life of faith and some won't. All of this is besides the point. This is blatantly getting off of topic. Thomas's first claim was that there wasn't proof for religion. No one claims that there is. No one claims that there's proof for anything. Thomas, I dare you to name one thing with 100% proof. I would say that the claim that the Earth is round is a very logical claim. Now, is it proven? No, 100% not. Flat Earthers will tell you that NASA photoshopped the Earth any day. Nothing is a fact other than cogito ergo sum. Once again, this is all besides the point. I said that there's evidence for God's existence, which Thomas did rebuttal, so thank you for that. Basically, the evidence for God's existence is what I gave. The rarity of our universe. But then Thomas said, oh, well, the universe is eternal, so rarity is just bound to happen. Well, and then he gave us a graph, which contradicts himself. He gives us a line. This line's supposedly eternal. This is one point in time, the past, and this is now. If this line is infinite in length, there's an infinite amount of time in between these 2 points. An infinite amount of anything cannot be traversed. If there's a road that goes for infinite, you'll never reach the end. So if there's a line that goes for infinite, you'll never reach the next point. If we are here in the now, that's impossible if we had to traverse an infinite amount of past to get here. Neither did he rebuttal any of the mathematical absurdities of the infinite. He also said, he kind of called out you, the audience. He said that you already have a bias. You've already screwed him over because you won't just admit that we have no meaning, we have no value. Thomas, I don't think anyone believes this, and neither do I think you believe this. If our universe doesn't have any meaning, if our universe doesn't have any value, and that's exactly what the audience should believe in your worldview, why are you debating tonight? Why haven't you already gone and died? Of course I don't want this to you, because I think the universe does have value. But if the universe has no value, like you claim, there's no point in debating. There's no point in stepping in front of a podium, in front of an audience, and speaking. None of this has any meaningful value in any way. So your actions do not match your belief in any way or at all. You also didn't address a lot of my points, which it's fine. You will in the rebuttal periods. I'm not here to condemn you. But once again, what is the cause of our universe? Why is our universe so rare? It's not eternal. I've already shown that. If you're still going to claim it's eternal with your self-contradictory timeline that doesn't make sense, I hope you wouldn't. In short, if God isn't real, and we have no meaning, there's no point in debating here tonight. There's no point. His actions do not describe his words. If there's no evidence for God, then what were all the points I made, which have not been fully rebutted? I just showed you. If there is no proof for God, well, who cares? There's not proof for anything. I'm sure some of you guys believe right now that you're sitting on a chair. What's the proof that you're in rec room? You could be dreaming. There's always alternatives. No one is claiming there's proof for anything. That is not a standard we have in science, mathematics, or history. The claim is there evidence? And I believe the intelligent design, the rarity, and the morals, the meaning of our universe is evidence in itself.
So I made this lovely little number line.
Oh, I still have it here. Drop my mic.
I made this lovely little number line, made this lovely little number line that you didn't understand the point of it all. You thought I was doing time. No, the number line is the argument that there are infinity points on this number line. The infinity points between 0 and 1. But the only one where we exist in is 1, which is why there could have been infinite universes before this one. There could have been just this universe. But point is, we could never exist if we weren't at this one. That's why I drew a little human right here. What else? You said I can never find something with perfect proof, then pointed out the flat Earth. Those people are people who don't have proof. Every time they try to prove it, they're easily disproven. The flat earthers. They're one of the most famous examples of people who are wrong in existence. And just because they don't believe something doesn't make it not fact. The Earth is round. This is a fact. The Earth is round. This is a fact. The sky is blue. This is a fact. I am sitting in a chair right now. This is a fact. You're all on Rec Room right now. This is a fact. And to say that there are no true facts is to say that this debate is pointless because we're all dreaming. You also pointed out how if our universe is like truly pointless, is truly pointless, then why don't I just jump off a cliff, or we all jump off a cliff because nothing matters. And to tell you the truth, stuff doesn't matter. I could care about my fellow people. I care about my fellow people. I care if my mother. I care if my mother dies. I care if the world is dying. I care if something bad happened. It doesn't mean that things are pointless. It just means that there isn't a creator. You can decide that stuff has a point, even though it's not true. But above all else, just because there isn't a creator doesn't mean that nothing matters.
When you're ready.
Okay, So, sorry, Thomas, for my misconception of your viewpoint. You're now explaining the multiverse theory. There's an infinite amount of possibilities. Your timeline has absolutely no evidence. None. Neither does the multiverse theory. If there is somehow some machine or something that's spitting out all these multiverses, you're only kicking the can to yourself. This multiverse machine, this whatever's creating these multiverses that have always been or whatever, is just increasing the rarity. It's just the rarity of our universe, and then another one with more rare things, and another one, another one. All of these individual possibilities are rare in themselves. They all have different constants that are also rare. So, once more, you have no evidence for the multiverse theory or your timeline. Neither did you give any. Nor did I claim that there wasn't truths or proof. I believe there is proof, but I believe it will only be revealed to us once we have died and gone to heaven and seen God. Jesus Christ will reveal the truth. He is the way, the truth, and the light. But in our universe, there is no such thing as proof. For something to be a proven fact, there can be no alternatives. So when I said that there is alternatives, you just dismissing that and saying, "Nuh-uh, they're wrong," is a contradiction of the word proof. If there's an alternative to something, it's not proven. I don't think there is proof for things. If there's proof that the Earth is round, then give it to me. What is the proof that the Earth is round, Thomas? I'd like to hear it. We believe so many claims without any proof. Every morning, my father gets into his car, his Mercedes, and he goes to work. Does he have to 100% fact check and prove that car before he speeds off? No. He's got evidence, reliability. That car worked yesterday, it's most likely that it'll work the next day. No one needs 100% proof for anything. If we did, every single decision we made would take an eternity amount of time to make. You did tell me, and I said not to get into specifics when referring to about religion, but you forced my hand when you switched the goalpost and committed a fallacy and bring up individual scripture. I had to give my Christian perspective so the audience understand why God doesn't come. It's not my fault that you committed a deliberate fallacy that's not about the event title in the middle of it. Let me think what else I have here. You said that you care about others, and the universe does have meaning without God. I'll give you this one, even though you literally told the audience they shouldn't believe this. So let's say that we should care about others if atheism is true. Why? What gives a human being value if atheism is true? Their abilities? Them being human? That's not proven. I don't think there's evidence for any of that stuff. What makes us more valuable than animals? Why can we butcher animals of the thousands, of the millions? A specific religion can put, God can put the humans over the animals because of their abilities. But if atheism is true, humans, just because they're more conscious, doesn't change anything. A 3-year-old is the same conscious level as a pig. But we still kill pigs over 3-year-olds. Your own bias for your family members does not show in any way possible that humans have value or anyone in this audience has value. The only way we can have value is if we were made for a intentional ending, a conclusion, a destiny, which is given to us specifically in religious scriptures, and if there's a God. If there's a God, we were made with a purpose. We were made to do something. We can have objective morality. I want to ask you on this, Thomas. Do you believe morality is objective, meaning a fact, or do you believe it's subjective? When you make claims that we are valuable, murder is wrong, assault is wrong, slavery is wrong, rape is wrong, are these objective or are they subjective? Are they opinions or are they truth claims? If you think they're mere opinions, well, why do we force them on others? You wouldn't force your opinion of liking ice cream onto another one. So if moral claims like murder being wrong are just mere opinions, why do we force them onto others with a government system? That is simply wrong. If moral values are objective, what is the foundation or the reasoning? If a moral claim is a fact, if murder being wrong is a fact, if humans having value is a fact, you need evidence. You need a foundation, or else this claim will fall like a skyscraper. In order for Thomas, you to continue tonight, you have to demolish everything I say, replant it in your new ideology. You have to give evidence for this multiverse. You have to give evidence for objective versus subjective morality and state your opinion. And you have to tell the audience why they have value if they're simply cosmic accidents. I don't believe you can do any of these things, because atheism is incorrect. Questions. Morality. Is it objective or subjective, and do you need me to elaborate on it and what that means?
Not for me, but for the audience. Please elaborate.
Objective means a fact. Subjective means an opinion. Are claims like murder being wrong, factual, or are they just mere difference between society and society?
I'd say subjective.
Got it. So let me ask you this: if someone broke into your house and assaulted a close family member of yours, what would you do? I'm sure that you would, if your brother, who was in here earlier, if someone tried to assault your brother, you would attempt to stop the assaulter, correct? Wait, hold on. Morality is just an opinion. It's mere subjective. That assaulter is just executing his opinion. There's no truth to the claim of I have to stop my brother. That's morally right. There's no truth to that claim. It's the same magnitude as kicking a child in the face for liking a color. If a child likes the color red, stop right there this instant, and then you punch him across the face. You have to stop him. That child is just executing his opinion of the red crayon. And in Thomas, your worldview, that person that's deliberately assaulting your brother is just executing his opinion of liking to hurt people. How are you to force your opinions onto others?
How am I to force my opinions onto others? Mostly because of the sheer I'd say it's subjective, but mostly because of the sheer magnitude of people who'd say that murder is wrong. But I'm assuming, I'd say this: every single one of you in the audience, raise your hand if you think murder is wrong.
Hey, can I ask you this, Thomas? If everyone in the audience raised their hand to slavery being okay, would that make it okay?
Sure.
What? Pardon?
I mean, sure. I mean, we know it's wrong. We know it's wrong, but if we all agreed that it was right, then by the idea of then by the whole opinionist of ethics, it would be right. I'm not saying I support slavery. I'm just saying if everyone did, then slavery would be a good.
Let's say hypothetically, let's go off the view of utilitarianism. Let's say every single person in the world, okay, except for one person, but remember the majority of happiness, which is you're thinking the majority here. Let's say every single person in this world said, "Hey, sexual makes me happy. So let's all find a girl and let's commit sexual assault against her." You're claiming that just because a bunch of people find something good that makes it okay, and they're morally in the right to go sexually assault that girl? I think that's absurd. I don't think you live that worldview. I don't think at all. By this worldview, the society of Nazi Germany, if they were able to successfully brainwash all of the people like their plan was, that would mean that the Holocaust would be okay, because everyone would agree with it. If the Civil War was won by the South, well, America would pretty much might own slaves still. Would that mean that slavery is okay? Absolutely not. I mean, there's no way you live by this worldview. How?
Yes. Firstly about the people who decide to commit sexual assault on the girl. I'd say if there were a dozen people who want to commit sexual assault on the girl, people who after that happens, or if it stopped, or after that happens, news reporters will.
I said everyone, Thomas. I said everyone except the girl. I literally said everyone.
Oh, everyone except the girl? Well, then it'd be fine.
Okay. I just want to make that
are purely
clear,
subjective,
yeah.
and you can point out infinite bad things, but honestly, if everyone in here said they were good, then they'd be good, you know?
Okay, it's not standard, because a standard is based off of nothing to do with perspective. Let's move on. You made the claim of the multiverse. The multiverse doesn't need proof. We're just speculating here. Your claim that is by definition illogical. There's no logic behind it. It's mere speculation. How are you to come up on a podium when the topic has the word logic in it, and then say it's insulting to claim anything to do with God's logic when your own viewpoint has nothing to do with anything to do with any kind of evidence? You can't supply any.
Love how you're supporting my argument with every word you say. Like I pointed out, you're right. There is no proof for the multiverse theory. But unless you agree that we should not believe in God because there's no real proof, then you need to agree that the multiverse exists.
I think there's evidence, and let's not commit
Is that evidence speculatory?
You
Is it
can't
just
ask
math?
questions. It's not your question period yet. You
Oh,
can
go
wait.
ahead.
So morality is subjective, meaning actions like sexual assault are only determined by civilizations. His claims have no evidence, at least one of them, and I believe mine do. I think this is I'd like to end my cross-examination, and if everything's okay with Silas, I think Thomas may start his.
I will start mine with the questions that I started out with asking. What is your opinion on ethics?
My opinion is that ethics can be objective. If God is an outside source to humans, which is what a standard needs to be, a evidential standard, something with evidence, needs to be outside of human opinion. If God's outside of human opinion, He can be that standard. He can set right and wrong, not even just by choosing, but just reflecting off of the attributes of Himself. We can tell people that sexual assault is wrong no matter what anyone says. Slavery is wrong no matter who won the war. The Holocaust was wrong, even if the Nazis successfully brainwashed everyone. We can make those claims if any God really exists and chooses to set those objections.
Is murder good?
Murder's in definition is unjustified. An example,
Perfect.
something
So-
like self-defense not be murder, because murder is always unjustified.
So murder is always bad.
It's in its definition, it can't be. It's not even up for
But it's
opinion
okay to kill people.
in certain contexts, but then it wouldn't be murder. If it's okay to kill
then
someone,
murder is
by
not always
definition, it's
bad.
not murder. No, you're look up what murder means. Murder means the unjustified killing. Let's say, for an example, that there was a school shooter who walked into a building. Well, let's say the cop shot the school shooter. That's not murder, because it's justified. If killing is justified, by default, it's not murder.
So you're saying it's subjective?
No, it's not subjective. You're misinterpreting me. Once again, killing and murder are distinct. Killing, right, is good. It's usually good. An example of killing would be, again, if someone was hurting your brother, and you killed that man before he could hurt your brother. That's killing. That's not murder. That is not murder. Murder cannot be justified. There's never an instance where murder's
But
right.
it's subjective.
Because no, it's not subjective. It's firmly set by God in the Ten Commandments given to us by Moses, and notorious times like in Galileans, and what basically any religion can have a specific view on it.
So when is it okay to kill?
This is, there's millions. An example of something being okay to kill would be if there was a civilization of child murderers. If there was a civilization...
No. Don't give example. Define.
Define when it would be okay to kill?
Yeah, just like...
If the killing was justified, I
If it's
can't
not
really answer that question.
define.
Pardon, hey Silas, there's someone behind the stage, so... I did define murder. Murder is the unjustified killing of an innocent being.
Define killing.
Killing is the taking of a human being's life.
When is it okay?
Killing can be okay. You want me to give a specific instance? What?
Sure, give me a specific instance.
Killing would be okay if there was a civilization of baby butcherers, if there was a civilization of grapists, if there was a civilization of evil people, and then we went to war against them and we were to wipe them out and replace them with good people. That would be an example of something. That would be an example of killing people.
You're literally
being okay.
saying it's subjective.
No, I'm not. Just because some
you're saying-
individual
but, like-
kind of killing.
But what makes it okay to kill those baby eaters? Just because their ideals don't align with yours?
Because God sets these rules. God can set these rules. It's objective based off of the attributes of Him.
So now it's subjective based on context?
I never have used the word subjective. Anything that is objective is based off context. Silas, can you hear me? Hello, Silas? There's someone running around the stage. Can you please kick them? There's someone outside. You can hear them. You can hear them. I can hear them walking. They're literally over there. Pardon, continue, Thomas.
What were you saying?
Yeah, so once again, murder and killing are distinct. Killing is always broad. It doesn't go specific. Killing can't be justified. Murder, by definition... Murder, by definition, cannot be okay. Right, that's the distinction. Killing can be justified. Murder, by definition, atheist or not, subjective, objective, whatever you believe in, murder can't be good, because it's in its definition that it's not.
But then there's no such thing as murder.
There is such thing as murder. It's in
If that
very
guy
individual
were to come
cases.
into my house and to kill my brother, why would he be doing that? Because it made him happy. Well, then he had a reason. Then he had
But
a
that's
reason.
wrong.
And he had a justified reason.
Just because there's a reason behind an action does not make it okay. There can be unjustified reasons, which God can set
What's
in
the
the
difference
Bible.
between justified
or any
and with
book.
a reason?
Justified has a logic behind it. It's got a foundation behind it, pointing towards it being okay. An example, I could justify cheating on my homework if I was being held at gunpoint to do it. So something can be justified by having a foundation behind it.
Okay, but that's what a reason is.
Yes, and you don't have any reason for any of your morals in your worldview.
I just said I just said what a reason is. Like that guy came into
The
my house.
reason is because humans have objective value. This is the problem with tonight, because this is forcing me to get in specifics. This God might not even... The God that I'm arguing for tonight can be any God. In order for me to answer these questions, I would have to reflect on the Bible, or the Quran, or the Talmud of Judaism, or the Old Testament. I can't give you an objective answer, because every religion will be different. But a God could give human beings value depending on how he created them, and why he created them. Human beings might not have value if this God doesn't choose to set that. I can get into specifics if you want about Christianity, only under your approval.
If the values can differ depending on the God, then there are no values.
No, there are values. It just depends on which one's true, which then we can debate on whether or not the Bible's
But you
historically
just said
accurate.
that the only thing that makes it true is because of what the God thinks.
No, we're talking about in principle here. The only thing that would make it true would be if it had an objective backing. I think the only way this could be an objective backing would be through God. And I think there is a God. I've shown that there is a God. Thomas, I'm quite confused with what you're saying. Look, because God is automatically outside of time because of his definition, he can set moral views, but the way he does it, why he does it, is going to differ between religion. I'm only making the claim that a God he could. This argument could be applied to a religion where he doesn't.
Huh. So then, in that religion, murder could be justified?
If it's true, but I don't believe that religion
So tell
to be
me,
true.
to you, is murder justified? Because you
My
made the big
individual
point.
preference... Okay, I'm going to get into Christianity here if you ask me that question, because I got to. Okay, yeah, in worldview, God made us in his image and likeness. This is described in Genesis. God also says that we have meaning when he decided to go on earth and die for our sins. So God made us with destiny. We have somewhere we're going, right? We have value because we're made after someone who has value. So that's why humans have value. That's why murder would be wrong, right? Murder being, again, the unjustified killing. Murder can never be justified, nor is that subjective, if a God sets this objective fact of it. It doesn't matter how many perspectives say murder is right, like in your worldview. Everyone on the planet could say murder is right. It doesn't matter. God is outside of time. He's the ultimate ruler on all of us.
But if everyone on the planet agrees that it's right, then God has no bearing on that, which means there's no God.
No, God definitely has a bearing on them. 100%. That would be like saying if everyone in the history room told the history teacher George Washington was born in 1902, then they're right. Just because a whole bunch of people make a false claim, even in your worldview, they can just be false. I'm just saying they're false about morality. If everyone believed that actions like slavery was okay, they would still be wrong because God has ruling over them. He literally determines where they're going. He makes the facts.
Hold on a second. So you're saying that that you don't find out what morals are until you die.
No, you can find out morals right now. All you have to do is look at a religious text. I'm trying not to get into specifics here.
So then, so if my morals don't, but wait, if there's one God that chooses all the morals, but I can
Not
choose my
always
own morals,
chooses.
then there are no
It's
morals.
not always choose. No, once again, there are facts, and it doesn't matter how many perspectives there are in it, they're not changed. This God sets the fact. You can deny the fact and be a bumbling buffoon, but God doesn't care. What does matter is you're just denying the facts at this point.
I'd like to end my cross-examination here.
Okay. If you look at the arguments I've been making tonight, they have been based off of evidence. I think what I'm doing is kind of making a presupposition. Don't think this is just me. This is almost every scientist. We look at our universe and we see that there isn't enough matter for it to be together. We should be flying apart. So what do scientists say? Before they have any evidence in any way, they presuppose there's invisible dark matter. This dark matter solves the problem. I believe God is this dark matter. God solves all these problems. God tells us where the universe comes from. God explains why things are so rare. God can give objective morals. Actions like murder and rape will always be wrong. Forever. This is the theist's position. The atheist's position is far illogical. There's no evidence for this multiverse, so these precisions are still just as rare. Absence of evidence is not evidence, so my first contention has not even been answered. I believe in my very short amount of time tonight, I have demonstrated perfectly why I believe in God, and why you and Thomas should also. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thomas, now with your closing statement.
I don't really have an argument to make with the end. I'd like to firmly state there is no God. There's no creator of the universe. There's no creator of the universe. And I believe that with what I've said tonight, I think I've done my best to. Hi, Cathode Dice. I think I've done my best to explain why I think that. I'd like to thank Michael for giving me this opportunity, and Silas for moderating. I don't really have a lot to say, so that's all she wrote.
All right.
I also want to say before Silas, before you speak,